All right, everyone, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. So I've been reflecting quite a bit about the transit and where we're going and how to actually align ourselves so that we can weather the change and the transformation better. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of turbulence. There's a lot of, stuff that are causing agitation. I've been talking to some of my other friends who are light workers who are having similar experiences that I have because of the contractions of the finances and how they're trying to manage the change. And I think this is true of all businesses. It's either, unless you're in healthcare, in which case you're being overwhelmed by work. And so I've been really careful to pay attention to something really key broke for me this week. And I don't know which teacher I was listening to. Oh, the one that just died, that was 90 some years old from Thailand. The great teacher, his name is complicated for me to repeat. I don't want to bastardize it, but he wears this brown robe. He just passed away. They just showed his twin, and I'll tell you his name in a second because I have it in my email. Because I actually watched several of his videos, and he's really fabulous. And so I watched something that he was talking about Kuan Yin and the power of Kuan Yin, because they were singing. It was he had a chorus and instrumentalist behind him, and they were going to sing a mantra to Kuan Yin. And I love how much I love me some Kuan Yin. And I was listening to his explanation and then protectory comment. I had to pause the comment after he said this particular statement. The true power of Kuan Yin and why she's called she who hears the suffering of the world, her true power is in listening. I had to pause the video and sit down and think about it and meditate. Because what have I not been telling you for the past 10 years? It's morphogenic listening that's the key to everything. And the way he explained it, he said, when she stood in stillness and she allowed herself to go so deep within herself and to truly listen to her own pain, her own suffering, her own panic, her own agitation, everything that's within her that is not at peace. When she went deep inside of all of it, she was able to remove the stinger and the linchpin out of every item that was causing her personal discontent and unhappiness. And because she did this, and she went so deep within herself, and I've been teaching you the Dantian process, querying self, going deep and trying to find within your Dantian what sensation, perception, feelings that you're not seeing, that you're not perceiving, that might be a disturbance to your own body and your own core. So as you go deep and deep in that space, let me see if it's not someone that's trying to log in. Yeah, it might be somebody trying to log in. Okay, let me resend the link to Marjorie. She can get in. Hold on. That's what I thought. So the more that you can be like Kuan Yin through the Dantian process. And the funny thing about it is that, and I've said this to you many, many moons ago, that my true ability and power is that I have morphogenic listening. I have holographic listening and morphogenic listening. That's the only ability that I have. And everything else that happened occurred because of that one thing. And what he said then, as he explained it, is that she went into such a deep, deep level of unwinding these experiences of suffering or discontent that exist in her core, all of these experiences of pain and suffering that exist inside of her, all of these experiences of anger or frustration that exists in her core, all of these experiences. And as she went deeper and deeper and deeper, Kuan Yin was able to unravel it through the process of this, of her being the perfect listener. She listened to herself first, and she went deep, the deepest that she could go. There were times when I'm doing my process where I would simply sit in meditation after I'm done with the universal breath, where I would just sit with myself and I would simply generally ask energetically, what am I lying to myself about? What am I not seeing? What am I blinding myself to? To allow myself to go deep, and of course I wait for an answer at each time, to go deeper within myself and to listen to me. I've told you before, the only power that I really have is morphogenic or holographic listening. Up to that point, I never understood Kuan Yin's name. When the name was saying, Kuan Yin translated as she who hears the suffering of the world. And he explained, he said, she listened to herself so deeply and so attentively that she unraveled by going deep into the discomfort so deeply that she unraveled all that she was not going to lie to herself. And as she did this, things got undone, this one resolved, this one undone. And behind them, which is the Kuan Yin Heart Sutra, she realized that at the bottom of all this pain was formlessness, and that formlessness manifested into emptiness. And out of that, she evolved a profound compassion for herself. And that deep and that profound compassion for herself transferred into her having now compassion and ability to listen to the pain and the suffering of others. That blew me away. That completely blew me away. I was not expecting this. And the kind of Buddhism that he teaches is a very practical Buddhism. It's about you being in mindful awareness of everyone that's around you. He speaks very softly, and he has a tremendous amount of wisdom. You can tell this man is like so wise. And I am in awe, okay, of that insight, because that's what I've been trying to lead you into understanding through the process of the Dantian, the query, the morphogenic listening. All of them are trying to make you do the same thing, which is to learn how to listen, not to hear, because we all hear. But most of us, when we're hearing, it's the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex that's engaged. We are hearing sounds an idea through this concept of tactical analysis so that we can reply and we can be right. Whereas if you're trying to listen, you're trying to actually be the perfect witness without having to respond, without having to reciprocate, without having your ego to be caressed and cajoled so that people can see that you're intelligent or you have wisdom. Particularly when you're talking about your own inner self and your own inner state of being, we can't lie to ourselves. Although we do all the time, and and the most egregious lies are the one that we tell ourselves. And Kuan Yin knows this. And that's why she went so deep within herself. She was in Fragrance Mountain for a long time alone, going deep within herself, trying to find all of these pockets where all of her fear, all of her rage, all of the stuff that was inside of her that made her discontent showed up. And as she sat with them and went deeper and deeper and deeper, they unraveled. And wisdom and insight came through. And more than that, profound compassion. And that compassion allowed her to achieve enlightenment. She didn't set out to be a bodhisattva originally, nor to listen to the cry of everyone on earth. What she set out to do is to find peace profound within herself by truly listening to everything that's happening within her. And I've said this in the training that I've done for the Melchizedek training. I've said it over and over again. Every time, for those of you who've known me for the past 10, 15 years, you know, every time, every meditation, I say the same thing. Take a very deep breath and let your head and your entire consciousness drop in the middle of your chest. That's my cue. That's my shorthand to describe morphogenic listening. That's a way for me to try to tell you to go into that state of awareness where your heart is completely open and you're listening. Everything that I am teaching you for the past 15 years came from me being in that state. Everything. The wisdom of the entire universe hinges on that one ability. To go so deep that you are now a witness to your own self. Because the higher state of enlightenment, and actually the God state, is actually to be a witness. I want to revisit with you today what that means for you. I want to invite you into exploring the state of morphogenic listening, the state where you are so deep into your entire inner world that you are allowing whatever wants to show up. And there is a point, sometime when I'm describing this and I'm channeling it, there's a point sometime I mention You have to go so deep within yourself that you have to imagine that every cell in your body had ears. The more than 50 trillion cells in your body had ears, and you're using it to listen to yourself. And as you go so profoundly deep, you begin to discover things that were invisible to you. Blind spot, things that were cloaked, all of it gets revealed to you. And out of each one of them, there is a profound wisdom and now insights and expansion and compassion for yourself. If you do this like Kuan Yin enough time, you're going to get to a point where that same ability, that same gift will now be directed to the people in your circle of influence. And you will be able to truly be socially intelligent. Because social intelligence occurs through what scientists are now, this is a new science, are calling mirror neuron, where you are mirroring and picking up in through the neuron network that someone else that's outside of you is emitting. You're picking it up, and you're able to empathetically sense and feel and know where they are. And you can socialize, respond, or even influence them by responding back to them without even saying a word. By shifting your energetic response, they then with their mirror neuron will pick it up. This is the part that we call entrainment. If you can do this, it will dramatically change your entire journey and spiritual life. What shocked me about this statement is that no wonder I've loved Kuan Yin from the get-go. I was doing exactly what she was doing without having that understanding. Any questions, any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that those messages or that message is resonating everywhere, pretty much. I mean, to me, because today I was just doing some things around the house, and I decided to put on Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about the same thing, basically, in terms of how she said, we have enough love within us to not only heal ourselves, but to heal the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, she was just talking about, and using her methods like you're using, your approach, but it was all saying something very, very similar. And I think yesterday, Bobby and I was talking about telepathy,
Mm-hmm.
and the ability to, know what's happening anywhere, pretty much. And, we were giving examples of people that have written about it. And some, there's a whole area of dowsing, that deal with that too. So we were just talking, and it's interesting that, you know, your message today and well, I thought about you too, but you're talking about it today, you know, in terms of that ability to know ourselves, and through knowing ourselves and that compassion and, you know, understanding our own hurts, brokenness, you know, in order to not only know and heal ourselves and identify it and be willing to put in that work, and you know, but it's really in my opinion, it's the key to healing the world.
Beautiful.
That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, but I mean, it was just resonant. I said, "Oh my word, you're talking about it too tonight."
Yeah, and Esther, beautiful testimonial, and thank you for the resonating in this alignment, because I've been doing this all these years. I just never knew that's what it was. You were talking about healing yourself and the compassion, and I love when you said repair our brokenness, because we're fractured within and we're broken. And it's not just compassion that we achieve, self-compassion, but also acceptance of ourselves. And this is huge. And when you can do this yourself, you can extend it to the outside as well. There's nothing more powerful, no gift that's more powerful than when you're communicating with somebody else. And instead of you talking over them or trying to tell them what you want them, you know, your message and what, you know, trying to fix them, that you quiet down completely and you truly listen to them so that they can feel, and here's the gift, so that they can feel for the first time in their life, they have been heard. That is a huge gift. That in itself begins the healing. Most of us are constantly talking, trying to let people know how we feel, and no one is hearing us. To be such a witness and to have such acceptance and compassion for the process that someone is going through, that you would quiet down. And I don't mean quiet down and still in your head, you're going around buzzing. I'm saying completely quiet down. Surrender completely. No judgment. And let them tell you their story. Without any interruption. Let them tell you their story. And in the back end, when you need to respond, you will have the social intelligence to be able to match them frequency to frequency, to be able to be supportive, to be able to know exactly what to say. I'm completely floored by this video that I saw. And again, I clicked on the video because of the mantra. It was a video about a mantra that was going to be sung. And in his introductory comments, that was about 10 minutes, he explained all of this, and I had to pause it several times, just because I was like, this is extraordinary. I was completely, I had heard, and I knew Kuan Yin listened to the cries of the world, but it never occurred to me that the power of the Bodhisattva is the power of listening. That never occurred to me. Yet, and I've said it multiple times in front of you, my true gift is that I have holographic listening. I have morphogenic listening. Yes, Ursula, I'll send the video. I'll have to look for it on my history. I'll send the video. And after that, the chorus came in and sung the music, etc., blah, blah, blah. But it was not about the music and the mantra. The reason why I clicked on it, and I'm telling you, Google sometimes is like the oracle. It knows what you need without you knowing. Okay, because I needed to hear this, but it showed up on my thread, and I'm like, when you use another mantra of Kuan Yin, let me listen to it. And as I clicked on it, it just floored me. Now, how you listen is important. As I said, listening has to happen without any judgment. Listening has to happen in such a way that you're not trying to get tactical information and you're not spying on other people. Particularly when you're socially intelligent enough where you can hear other people's business. That part, it's the morality and the ethics is extremely important. Because otherwise, you venture into the space of the dark side of the empath, which is to constantly be scanning others so that you can have tactical advantage for what's good energy as opposed to bad energy. And a lot of these empaths, young empaths or older empaths that are doing this because in past lives they were killed because of their spiritual or intuitive abilities. And now for them to survive, they have evolved this mechanism where they are scanning all the time, 100% of the time, all the time, because they are trying to find where it's safe, where it's not safe, so that they can flee. And when you do this energetically, I've described this before, what you're practically doing is that you're putting your hand inside somebody's skirt. And that person has their own internal defense, they will attack you back violently. Even though they may not say anything, but their own inner defense and energetic. When you invade them this way, because it's an invasion, it's a rape, when you energetically do this, they will attack you. And they will slap you back and cause you to feel like you've been soiled by something very dark. That's why the empath is always complaining of them being soiled with dark energy. And they have to stay alone, they have to work. What I'm saying is that there's a 50% in this. If you're an empath and that ability is a burden for you, you have to realize that you're scanning. It's not the same thing as you when you're morphogenically listening. When you're morphogenically listening, you have no judgment for anything. You're simply a witness. The empaths are mostly scanning to find good energy so that they'll have an advantage. It's ego-driven. It has very specific agenda to it. It's spying. So when you're in that state of awareness, you drop so deeply and so profoundly, particularly first with self, the things get undone, the pain, the suffering, all the things that are, they crumble, they get undone. And then you move into a space of not only self-acceptance, but profound compassion, because you get into a state where everything becomes so simple and so still. You go into, in Buddhism, it's called dharmata, which is the essence of being, where all of the masks that we're using, that are behind every pain, every suffering, or all the code, all the stuff, you just get completely unraveled. And everything becomes completely simple. And you have profound clarity. Any questions, any comments? So if you can bring yourself to a point of doing these little practices, and again, initially, the morphogenic listening exercise that I gave you, all these exercises, whether it's the Dantian, the morphogenic listening, or the query, each one of them is no more than 10 minutes. You don't have to do them back to back sometime. But the one thing that's clear for me is that now the morphogenic listening, because I've done it for so long, for such a long time, or more than 15 years, I can get into it very quickly. It doesn't take me 10 minutes. It takes me much less. 2 or 3 minutes, I'm there. Okay? And again, I know what the state is like. And when I begin to surrender and imagine that my entire awareness, my head, everything else drop in the center of my chest, as if my eyes were in the middle of my chest. My entire awareness is coming from that space. And when I'm in that space, I begin to perceive 360 degrees all around me. And I begin to sense inside of me, outside of me, everything that surrounds me. And very gradually, very slowly, I imagine that all the cells in my body have ears. And I go deep into trying to query myself to find out what am I hiding from myself. What am I not seeing? What am I not perceiving? And when you allow your body to begin to give you some of these answers, then suddenly you begin to perceive the blind spot that you were not seeing begin to break down. Now, the reason you do this every day, it's because I've described this before as the analogy to the Wall of Jericho. That the city of Jericho had an impenetrable wall and Joshua could not get in. And God said to Joshua, circle Jericho for 7 days by praising God and playing the trumpet and the drums. And on the 7th day, as he circled, the wall collapsed by itself and they were able to enter the city. Similarly, blind spot will not be revealed to you by you querying it one time. You have to keep circling Jericho. And as you keep going around it, you're going to feel something. Yes, there's something that I'm feeling, but I don't know exactly what it is. Something is there. If you have a part of your body that's in pain, that's in discomfort, there is a message in there for you. And if you can really go deep and listen, you're going to know what it is. And once it's unraveled, the brokenness will be repaired. It's important that we understand all of the nuances. And I'm going to go over this very slowly. Stop me at any point. If you're not getting anything, query, ask me. This is your opportunity. This is your class. You want me to go over something? Let me explain it to you thoroughly. Because I want you to leave the class knowing this forward and backward. Because it's the key to everything. The entire ascension mechanic that I teach, everything that I've been trying to teach you for the past 15 years is connected to this idea of this morphogenic listening. And it eventually leads you into a space when you go so deep within yourself where the inside is outside and the outside is everywhere. So that it becomes the circle whose circumference is, center is nowhere, whose circumference is everywhere. As above and so below, as within, so without. Kuan Yin never went out to try to be a bodhisattva and, save the world. She actually wanted to go within herself and heal herself and conquer herself. And as she did, she emancipated, and she went so deep and so profound. This is why she's often called Magne Padme, hail be the flower of the lotus or the jewel of the lotus, which is her. She is the jewel of the lotus because she is the purest of all. Because she went so deep. Any questions, any comments?
This instruction that you're giving, it just takes me back to what you had said many, many years ago about pausing, for the 10 seconds before you reply or take an action. And it certainly does make a difference because when you take that little 10 seconds, or sometimes it goes further, what you thought to think or say or do, you don't do.
Mm.
And I think that's very good advice for anybody, whether they think they're on the course of self-mastery or if they just think that they're working on their everyday relations. Because if you tell someone, I'm working on self-mastery, well, really, I don't tell anybody that. I just do the lessons and the steps without trying to explain to anyone. And I had introduced my grand niece's boyfriend to my chiropractor because he was finishing school and he needed to do hours and all these things. And so anyway, I just made a telephone introduction to them, not with the COVID, everybody so far apart, I couldn't do it in person. So what he told me chiropractor is that, he calls me the oracle. And I thought about that. First I said, well, I'm not going to get insulted by this. And then the chiropractor said, since he said that, he said, I cannot see you any other kind of way except the oracle. And I said, well, you have to be wise enough to know when to speak and when not to speak. So I don't say anything, to that. I said, I will take it as, a compliment. I don't know whether that was a joke or whether, but that was the word picture he painted for this doctor to describe me. And I thought, I'm constantly working on myself, but I don't go around trying to tell people that I'm working on my self-mastery, because they're the first person to tell you when you go off your own track. Hey, I thought you were working on yourself now. Why would you get upset about that? So that pause puts you in another place entirely. So I just think that it's beautiful to have, I call it like a safety net to catch you. So I just appreciate all of the little hints, all of the little things. And that's why when you talk about the computer to me is like the oracle also. And I was sitting there the other day, and it brought up this thing about soul contracts. And immediately I thought about the message that we have gotten from Lord Melchizedek during the Wesak, and why that affected me so much. And then when I saw this thing, I said, see, this is what I did for you. This is what I did for you. And man, that took me someplace else totally. See this in print. This is what I did for you for all the ages, all the eons of time that you've been working back to this place where you're now consciously working on your self-mastery. This is what I did. So I'm just grateful for the lessons and the little, confirmations that you get along the way. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, I really appreciate, it's the deeper it's a deep, in terms of the messages and reminders, both by you, Pierre, and Lydia. And when you were saying that, it's like a homecoming, it's where you start and where you end up, but, and everything in between is coming back home. But when you said that, how it's like all of our cells in our bodies are listening.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that. Literally. And part of, you say it all the time. And even in, it was, from another perspective, that was another part of Louise Hay. Actually, that's part of her whole training in terms of healing, you can heal your life, because she's saying that all emotions speak to us in different places in our body. And in the example she gave today, in this presentation, she was saying that once she had this ache in her shoulder, and it was a burning ache in her shoulder, and she couldn't, and whatever she couldn't get rid of it. And then she began to query herself, because she said burning, that's anger. And then she said, but I'm not angry at nothing or anybody. She couldn't think of anything that she was angry at. And then she said, okay, let me do an exercise to see if it comes up. And that's, like you the it's in a different way, but it's like exploring yourself and really seeing what's there. She said she put a couple of pillows on the bed and she just started hitting them because she knew it was anger because of the burningness. And she said after 10 times, just going at it in an aggressive way, she clearly realized what it was about. The what she was angry at while it didn't come up at first. When she went through that query with herself, it came to light and it gave her an opportunity to, begin to deal with it through forgiveness and those kinds of things. But I just, this message to me is helping connect so much about daily life, about healing, about exploring ourselves to go deeper, and about really, growing our spiritual, going deeper spiritually in terms of who we are and our purpose here on earth. Not only as a person, but also how we connect to the collective. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Esther. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, it's the crazy thing about this for the first, until the beginning of COVID, when I began to teach the Ascension Yoga virtuality to some of you to back to those classes, I always thought that you understood when I said, let your head drop in the middle of your chest. It was in the preparation or writing the outline for the series of classes that Spirit, my guide, said to me, Pierre, they are not understanding what you're saying. You're going too fast. They're not getting it. Go back and explain it step by step. It never occurred to me in the past 10 years that you guys were not getting it. Whatever I was doing, I was not being socially intelligent nor listening to you enough to allow your input to come back to me. At that moment I was, because all of a sudden Spirit guided me and said, they're not listening, they're not getting it, Pierre. You need to go back and explain it better. And the moment I did, people were like, oh my God, it's at a different level. Everything is different now. It is literally the foundation stone of ascendance and enlightenment. It will, like Louis Hayes was saying through Esther, it will heal the whole yourself and the whole planet. Again, when you're listening, you cannot afraid of your own fear and your own boogeyman if you're a witness. If you're a witness, you're just watching. If you're polarizing, you're being jolted and all that, you're not a witness yet. It's okay. You're in the process. It's okay. You might as well, get in touch with the charge that exists in your emotion and your feeling. And there will come a point as you continue to circle Jericho, the charge will disappear. And when the charge disappears, the wall will collapse and you will be able to see the wisdom that this block or this blind spot had in store for you. Because they all have in them major insight into the restoration of your spiritual economy.
But Pierre, for me, when you say drop your head in the middle of your chest,
yeah.
I've always interpreted that as having an alignment with your heart and your mouth.
Mm. Mm.
You know, it's like let your mouth speak your heart
Mm.
rather than your brain, let it speak your heart.
Yep. Yep. That will work too. That will work. That will work too. That will work too. For me, it was more like a surrender into complete listening mode. Interestingly enough, Carlos Castaneda, in all of his books, the 60s famous shaman that brought shamanism to the West, really, he's the one that made it sexy. In all of his books and series, that was his autobiography and journey with this teacher, Don Juan, the shaman from Mexico. First book is called The Teachings of Don Juan, The Yaqui Way of Knowledge. If you never read this, you're gonna be blown away. So in this book, or in all of the series, Don Juan has a way of always asking him because the problem, although he is from Hispanic ancestry, I think he was born in Venezuela, but he was raised in California and New Mexico. So he's very Western. He has a PhD. He's very Western. And Don Juan, as a shaman, always had problem with him because he's too frontal lobe, too analytical. So Don Juan taught him something, and when Don Juan wanted him to really hear him, Don Juan would use that term all the time, and multiple times in his book. He would say, Carlos, I want you now to go to the second attention. The second attention is listening with your heart, not with your head. It's morphogenic listening. And that way he would be able to communicate wisdom to him in a way that if he was frontal lobe or prefrontal cortex, Carlos would not be able to understand. Because it would be, what do you mean? Explain this to me. Well, how do I do this? Query, should I do this first question? Instead of going inside of yourself and let it expand, let the vibration and the neuron network, the mirror neuron that Don Juan is trying to communicate to you, to go into your heart so that you can receive it and let it expand inside of you, and all the answers that you need will be there. I found this to be fascinating. I read these books years ago, but I'm remembering Don Juan asking him multiple times when he was being too cerebral, but Don Juan would say, go to the second attention so that I can explain this to you so that you can get it. If you're really listening, a lot of time, the conflicts that are happening around you are no longer conflicts. Because if you're doing it, you begin to perceive the true motives that are behind the person who's supposedly trying to attack you. And you begin to, and the universe will give you access to information to kind of like bypass what you need to bypass. And more importantly, you will know how to respond in a manner that will allow all of these things to completely dissipate, to fade away. Any questions, any comments? Anything you want me to go over, to re-explain again about all the processes, whether it's the morphogenic listening, the Dantian, the query, anything you want me to expand for you?
I have a question, Pierre.
Yes, Ursula.
I'm not 100% clear, and I don't know if I need to be, because sometimes we just listen and surrender to the morphogenic field, and sometimes, you know, we pull energy from the ground, from the earth, and let it push up and go through us and release, you know, through the top of your head.
Uh-huh.
And I've been kind of doing both on and off intuitively, but I don't know if there's anything else that I need to understand, if there is a difference, if there's more to it than, it seems to me that if you want to release something, you can do the breath, right?
Uh-huh.
But you can also surrender just by, excuse me, surrendering to the blessed field without the breath. I was just curious if there is a difference between the two surrender. Excuse me.
The breath is there as a support. It's just a support. It's additional support. You query first. Don't do the breath while you're still circling Jericho. Doesn't make any sense. You're not going to release something, and it's not going to be released anyway, without knowing what's inside of it and what the gift and the wisdom, without really having the insight. So you're circling Jericho and you're going around the issue. And once the issue is unraveled and you're able to see the wisdom and get the insights, if there are residual fears and issues that are connected to this that you need to let go, then you can do the breath as a support to help you release it into source.
Right, yes. And we did do meditation not that long ago, 3-4 weeks ago, where we actually did both pieces. So we kind of started with morphogenic listening, and we were first just kind of surrendering to the field.
Yeah.
And there's towards the end, you added the breath to it.
Okay.
So I think as we practice doing both, you probably know intuitively when you need the breath, when you don't need it.
Yep.
At this point, seems to me that either way it's fine, and I'm kind of getting, eventually I'll get a sense of when it's more, the breath is more needed and when it's not needed, right? And it's just a matter of just listening and breathing. My guess is that it's something that it will evolve intuitively and you will know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to double check with you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you will know, because the breath is a support when you're letting go. So if you're trying to let go of something, then by all means do it. If I did it during a meditation, it's because I was channeling live and energetically the group body needed the release.
Needed it. So sometimes you might be so in a space where maybe you have done the breath already, and maybe you just don't need it anymore, and you can just surrender to the blessed field.
There are times when the what's the best way to say this? There are times when I need to release things. I don't need to do the breath. I just have to repeat over and over again. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I think about the issue I'm trying to let go. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. And I repeat this to myself multiple times. And that's enough for the whole thing to let go.
Right. Okay. Okay, that's the sense I was getting. It's kind of depends on what it is, and you will kind of know intuitively.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. I just kind of want to double check.
yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Oh, I just want to mention what you said earlier about Kuan Yin. I, for some reason, I found it very moving. It made me cry.
It was shocking to me. It was, I had to pause. I had to pause multiple times during the listening to him describing this. I had to pause. I'm like, oh my God, because everything else I've been doing for the past 15 years just clicked in place for me.
Right. Yeah.
It was a tremendous download.
So I just want to say thank you again for bringing again another powerful insight like that.
Mm, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Maybe I could chime in with a question, please. If our cells and our bodies are listening, if we're connecting holographically to that which is outside us as well as inside us, if we are attuned to other people's energies and so on, does that make us vulnerable?
No, not if you're a witness. The vulnerability only happens if you have tactical intent, if you're spying and trying to discover information so that you can have an advantage. When you're connecting to first of all, if you're doing the morphogenic listening, I would initially start by doing the morphogenic listening by listening to self, okay? So that's the first thing that you're doing. It's like Kuan Yin, you're gonna go inside and you're gonna listen to and try to find the broken pieces that are inside of you, okay? And that's the first thing that you're doing. So after this exploration is done for a while and you practice this muscle, and in order for you to do this so that you can see behind the masks or the blockages that your internal blockage you have created, you have to become neutral to them. And you have to become a witness to them and not be charged. And as you learn this muscle and you learn how to do this, you can extend that ability to the outside, to the entire morphogenic field, which is to begin to say to yourself that I am allowing myself to, when you're listening to yourself and you're going for your broken part, it's not that you're not connected to the morphogenic field, but it's internally driven. In other words, you're trying to discover when the field interact with you, the field is trying to help you unravel and heal the brokenness that's within. Okay? Now, in terms of social intelligence and interacting with other people, if you take that same muscle and use it to try to communicate to others, the only time where you're going to have a backlash is if you're trying to be tactical and spy and scan other people. Every time you do this, it's like it literally becomes like a negative karma. There is no reason why you should be spying on somebody else.
I'm certainly no desire or intent to spy on
No.
anybody else, but we were talking in the last week about the collective, about the archon energy,
Mhm.
about the vulnerabilities as they are part of us. And if we keep a tight rein on that, and by the way, thank you, that meditation last week made a huge impact on my sense of being freer, at least, if not free, from a lot of the influences I was experiencing. But I just thought about protecting ourselves as well as we open up to others. That's not certainly interested to be aggressors.
Mhm.
Aggressor.
Yeah, I understand your question now, Janice. So if you're taking the kind of care to internally do the process for yourself, when you go external to try to, you begin to now commingle with the energy of somebody, of other people, you're not going to be the aggressor, and they will not be able to hurt you because the field will neutralize them. That space that you go into, where the morphogenic awareness, where you are in superposition correspondence with everything else that exists in the universe, that space will not allow attack or malevolent intent to travel through it. It will not allow it.
That's very reassuring, very comforting. Thank you.
It will not allow it, okay? It will only allow, because many times, I can share an experience with you, many times I'm coming into the field and I'm confused about something, or I want to ask for something for a client or somebody else to bring their issue up. And as I try to project into the field their issue, because I am unclear about what I'm asking, or there are too many questions, or it's too ambiguous, or it's the client's motive is not clear, or my own personal motive is not clear. As I try to bring it up, I literally can hear the field said to me, you have to redefine it. It's not, you have to make it simpler. It's too complicated for an answer. And I have to go back, sit down, and rethink about what I'm doing. And I have to bring it up into the field for the release to occur, and I can feel it like the surrender, like I'm throwing the rock into the pool of light. To get to that space where the release actually occur, I have the space will not allow the convoluted, the kind of like secret agenda, the cloak and dagger. None of that will go into that field. It will not go. It will block it from going in. Because that field is dharmata. It's the essence of being. The only thing that can enter it is formlessness and luminosity. Beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And by the way, I was sharing with a student of mine that's doing the monadic merger in the other class on Monday, and about that state. And I taught them how to do the beginning of the merger and all that. We're on tomorrow is going to be the 5th class. And then last class, she came up and she said, something happened. I was in meditation. All of a sudden, I went to a space where I disappeared. I went outside of my body. I disappeared completely. I was scared. And I said, describe the space to me. And she began to describe it. And I don't know if I was feeling really bad, but I got scared that I couldn't return back into my body. And then I said to her, okay. She said, but the space was all white. I said, you were exactly in Dharmata. Because when you go there, you lose any sense of self-identity. You know you exist, and what's around you is white everywhere. And that whiteness is the luminosity. Because in that state, the emptiness, you're in a huge volume. You can't find the beginning or the end of it. You have a sense that you're inside a continent. And then the other sense that you're aware of is that everything around you is white. So if perchance during these queries, you find yourself in that kind of space, you're in Dharmata. You're at the very essence of being. And that field will not allow negative thoughts and negative agenda, egocentric, it will not allow the transmission of any of that stuff. Any other questions or comments?
Up here,
Yes.
I was just thinking, when we in Dharmata, it doesn't have to be white though, because when you first go into the blessed field, well, for me at least, it's not white, but it's still the same thing, right? It's still the blessed field.
Right. Correct. But when I'm describing something very specific with the monadic merger.
Oh, with the monadic merger. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Very specific to the monadic merger. Okay?
Yes, agreed. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do a closing meditation. 5 minutes. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I'll go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. It is as if you can only see the world from the center of your chest. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And notice what you noticed. Realized that you can perceive energies three 360 degrees all around you. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And become a perfect witness and observer. Now listen. Listen as if the more than 50 trillion cells that exist in your body had ears. What am I lying to myself about? What am I blinding myself to? What am I not seeing? Show me the truth. The truth will set me free. Listen. Listen with your entire consciousness. And become aware of any discomfort, unease, or resistance. Become aware of all of the subtle expansion, wisdom, and insights that the blessed field, the morphogenic field, has for you. without any charge. Be the perfect witness as you listened to all of the inner suffering, discomfort, and turbulence that may exist within you. Just keep breathing deeply and slowly. And surrender and let go. In this blessed field, is the true healer. And let this morphogenic healing wash over you. With penetrating insights, deep clarity, and liberation. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, open your eyes.
Yeah, that was a blessing. My goodness. So beautiful. So I don't have words for it. Very
Beautiful.
profound connection. Thank you.
You're welcome. Beautiful, Janice. Beautiful. How you all, the rest of you doing?
I'm trying to get back down to ground.
Mm. Mm. To all of you tonight, I just want to say profoundly thank you for listening to me. I want to thank you for joining us. If you're listening to us on Patreon, thank you for the support. On YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like to increase the algorithm, and share this with your friends. I want to thank you all. You all have a beautiful evening. Keep listening, and I'll talk to you next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.
Love
Good
you.
Hi, thank you, Pierre.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Love you all. Good night.
night.